joining us to talk about this and other issues pertaining to the presidency. Joe DiGenova, he is the former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, a great friend of ours here at WMAL, and I like to call him the refreshingly candid Joe DiGenova. Joe, welcome to Labor Day, and thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Austin. Great to be with you. It's nice to talk to you.
Always good to talk to you. Let's start with the president's remarks about Syria. He's wording things very, very carefully. I got to believe from a lawyer's vantage point, this is significant. He's not talking about a declaration of war, but the authorization of the use of force, just as his predecessor, George W. Bush, did back in 2002 before the invasion of Iraq. Tell us the significance of that.
Well, the significance is that he actually claims that he has the authority to use military force in Syria, but even though he does, he says he's going to seek congressional approval. The reason is very simple. He does not have authority under the Constitution to use military force in Syria, and he knows it. He also has lost political support significantly. When David Cameron lost the vote in Parliament on whether or not to use force, the president was there standing alone right next to his own red line. The president, in his feckless, foolish, offhand remark about a red line at a news conference several months ago, created an international situation for himself. And when the British voted not to go to war, because that's what it is, it's war, in Syria, the president was left standing by his red line. And so he does what he always does. The president doesn't want to own anything unless victory has already been secured. And so he decided that he would seek political cover so he could blame others. And the blame will work two ways. If he does not get approval in both houses, he will not have the legal authority to proceed. And he knows it. And he will be left standing there. He's not going to get it in the House. He may get it in the Senate, but he's not going to get the House to approve the use of force. He may not even get it in the Senate, but I believe that they have a strong enough party caucus among the Democrats there to secure, barely secure the vote for him. But if he doesn't get it from both houses, he doesn't have the authority to proceed. And if he does proceed, if he does use military force, he runs the risk of upsetting somebody like Tom Coburn, who has already, Senator Tom Coburn, who has already quietly said at town meetings during this recess that the president has gotten very close to impeachable offenses by his use of unilateral authority. This is going to be tough sledding for the president.
Yeah, that's very substantial. Joe DiGenova, former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, on the guest line once again here at WMAL. And that is very significant for a member of the Senate to be throwing around the I word, so to speak. We had both Republicans and Democrats coming out of the president's briefing, Joe, saying there is no support from the International Committee. We don't know if we can do this. But here's Senator Coburn from Oklahoma saying impeachment may be in order. How seriously are we to take that?
I think right now it was a shot over the bow, you should excuse the expression, to the president rather than a shot coming from the president. Senator Coburn was sending the president a very strong message. You've gone too far. Don't do any more of this. If you do, you are going to set in motion a series of political events which will be unsettling. I think the president partially decided to go to Congress because he actually has a lot of respect for Tom Coburn, as do many people who watch the Senate and the House. He is a thoughtful, smart man. I think the president decided that he needed the political cover because only 80% of the American people are against this action. And remember this, not far lurking in the background is Benghazi. Just think of this for a moment. The president wants to launch cruise missiles at a minimum and perhaps send the Air Force over Syria to strike military targets. And yet, he would not authorize a military response to rescue Americans at risk in Benghazi. The juxtaposition of these two actions is stunning. Nobody's made the connection yet. I was thinking about it this morning as I was preparing for this appearance, and I was stunned by the arrogance of the president in asserting the desire to rescue Syrians, but no desire to rescue Americans.
And that's not surprising to me, Joe DiGenova, but that is a very intriguing connection that a lot of people haven't made, and kudos to you for doing so. There is the line of argumentation, I guess we can call it, Joe, that says, well, the president having done this, he's taken all these other issues out of the news headlines. Benghazi, gone. NSA spying scandal, gone. The onset of the debacle called Obamacare, gone. Now the discussion will be about war and military and him being commander-in-chief. What do you make of that line of reasoning?
Well, I think actually there's probably a little bit of that in the president, because everything this president does has a major political element to it. This is Chicago politics writ large on the American stage. People are getting to see what politics is like in Chicago and Illinois. They're now into their second term of it. But here's the thing: he can distract all he wants, but the fundamentals are still there. He is running the security state. He is running the surveillance state. He is running the drone assassination state. And here's a guy who talks about my military. Can you imagine any other president ever using the phrase my military, which he did the other day? It's a stunning arrogance to use that phrase. All other presidents have said the American military, the military.
Our military, sure.
This is the cult of personality. My military. And to boot, after all of that, he can't even pronounce the word corpsman. He calls it corpsman at one of his speeches in the first term. An amazing ignorance of military terminology, and yet it's my military, as he calls it. This is unbelievable, and he's going to fecklessly try and use American force in Syria. And I'm going to tell you something. He's not going to get the vote in the House. There's no way the House of Representatives, notwithstanding what Mike Rogers says, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, and Peter King, both very nice people, both very interested in American security, he's not going to win in the House. He's not even going to get, he's going to lose at least 60 Democrats in the House.
Joe, 30 seconds left. You really believe the Democrats in the Senate will support this?
I think in the long run, if you heard the statement by Tim Kaine, the apparatchik senator from Virginia, the Democrat, I think they will unite behind the Senate, behind the president, because they have to. Because if he doesn't even carry one House, he will be crippled in terms of his other relationships in other legislative matters. But he's not going to get authority from Congress. It's not going to. Both houses are not going to support him. And without both houses, he cannot use force. And if he does, he runs the risk of resolutions of impeachment being introduced in the House.
Joe DiGenova, former U.S. attorney from the District of Columbia. Joe, as always, thanks very much. Enjoy your holiday.
Thank you. You too.